Okay. Okay, welcome everybody, and learning Chumash with going to Chassidus, try a little bit. So this parsha, in a way, Bereishis, is a very, very fundamental parsha. Who's talking about the creation of the world, creation of man, and the failure, the weakness of man. So what do we have this parsha? Adam Rishon, who is, you can say, the epitome, it's Shleimus Ha'adam, completeness, the maximum. He was handmade by God. And says that he was that he could outshine, darken the sun with his heel. His body was so much shining that it put the sun, made the sun look dark. In other words, because of a spiritual, what means physically, I don't be, but for sure spiritually it means that he had such a high neshama that he was shining in such a way that he outshined everybody. And if he was handmade by God, God made it in the best of his possible to make it. He didn't make something just like to be Yates or something. Also, it says that Adam Rishon was, we know we have 5 levels in the neshama: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. Nefesh HaKlolis is David HaMelech. Ruach HaKlolis is Eliyahu HaNavi. Neshama HaKlolis is Yankov Avinu. Chaya HaKlolis is Adam Rishon. And Yechida HaKlolis, the essence of all neshamas, is Mashiach. So we're talking about a person that had the highest level of neshama. And generally it says all the Jewish neshamas were in him. So the question starts, maybe we could start, how could he sin? Now, what we have to remember, one thing is that the premise of how we're looking, if we're going to learn the Chumash, we have to have a premise. The premise could be Hashem made it should be good, or made it should be complicated, or there is other, what could be here? So the premise is that the Eibishter is the only one that's running the world. Nobody else is running the world. There's no other powers, for sure not. Ultimately, according to Chassidus, there's no other existence beside the Eibishter. But first thing we have to know that the Eibishter is the only one that's running the world. Klippe, Sitra Achre, Malachim, all these stories are very good, but you cannot move away from the idea that the Eibishter is the only one that's running the world. All these stories that we hear about the Satan and this cannot take away one iota from the idea that the Eibishter is the only one that's running the world. Point number 2. The Eibishter, God, is the essence of goodness. And goodness only. So based on that, right, that means that everything he's doing is good. He's running everything, and he's the essence of goodness. And that's why it says, Ein ra yered milamala, there's no bad coming from heaven. So the question is, how could it be, from Adam Rishon's point of view, that he was the ultimate Shleimus HaAdam, the completeness, the highest level of Adam? How could it be that he sinned? But the second question, what we would have to ask ourselves, is from the Eibishter's point of view, from God's point of view. Since he's almighty, he could create a world that whatever way he wanted. So how come the world is so, as we said, Rubike Kolera, the world is full of negativity. The Gemara says, Rubike Kolera. Kabbalah it says, Elam Atzilis is good. Elam Abriya, second world lower than Atzilis, is majority good but a little bit bad. Elam Yitzire is half and half. But this world is Rubi Kekulera, majority, by far majority, not Rubi Kekul, almost completely bad, especially the physical world. And we say also that Rishoyim, that Rishoyim are successful in this world. Derech Rishoyim Sleicha. The way of wicked is successful here. That's what the Gemara says. So now, that's why I'm saying we have to remember the premise. In other words, no thing what we're going to say, bring down quotes from Gemara, from Chumash, from Tanakh, from wherever, could move that premise that the Eibishter is the essence of goodness. And there's now bad coming from the Eibishter. And only good is coming for him. So that makes the world, the way we're looking at it, the Eibishter is pretty strict. Right? And the first parsha in Torah, right, is Adam Rishon couldn't hold himself for 3 hours, right, not to sin, and he sinned, and with that, with punishment came that for history, till Mashiach will come, that people will die, as they say, that came because of Adam Rishon. So the question is, what did the Eibishter want? Did the Eibishter want Adam Rishon to sin, or he didn't want him to sin? So the Eibishter is emes. So if he told him not to eat from the Eitz Hadat, means he didn't want him to sin. So if the case is that, and the Eibishter knew that Adam Rishon is going to sin, and then next stage is brings the korban not in the ideal way, and then is killing Hevel. So if you know what's going to happen, and as we say, the world today, majority of the world in history was negative. Not by the whole world, not only by the Jewish people now. I'll get some maybe to Jewish, but the majority of the world is negative. How could it be? So God could easily make the world a little bit better. I can give him a simple solution. Make the Yetzer Tov, right, the power of goodness a little bit stronger, even just a little bit stronger. And the power, the Yetzer Hara, the desire, the temptation, the power of negativity, that Hashem created the power of negativity. Make it a little bit weaker, and then everybody will be fine people at least. Much better. Don't have to make everybody be tzaddikim, but little bit let them be beinim. Let them be in a very good level of Rosh Hashanah. And now we have a situation, right, that we're saying that the majority is negativity. Okay, now let's take this idea a step further. In other words, we're questioning the foundation of the whole idea of what's happening. What's happening? We're asking the Eibishter that you're coming from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and from Elul. We're asking the Eibishter you should have Rachmanis on us. When you ask the Eibishter to have Rachmanis on us, it's an insult to the Eibishter. When the Eibishter is the essence of goodness, of course he has Rachmanis. And you're asking the Eibishter you should give us a good year. What question is that? We said there's no Ra Yered Milamayla. So everybody are having in their head, right? Very simple answer, simple solution. Your one should be revealed good. So what the Eibishter, why didn't the Eibishter make it that it should be revealed good? So the truth of the matter, this is a question you could say in one hand that there's no answers for that. Moshe Rabbeinu asked the same question. Lama Reisa Lama, why did he make it worse for the Eden since they came to Pare, made it worse? But that's easy to say there's no answer, it's true. But what means doesn't have an answer? Is when we're saying that doesn't have an answer, is it an answer or it means saying that just doesn't have an answer? Does it make me, in other words, if there's no answer, does it make me feel good or bad that there's no answer? So since the Eibush is the essence of goodness, it has to make me feel good. So why do you say there's no answer? Let's have an answer. So first of all, so we're saying that the Eibishter could have easily, the Eibishter knew exactly what's going to happen, right? He's going to create the world, and he had infinite abilities how to create the world. Infinite abilities could create different kind of world completely, not only a little bit better, a little, could be a completely different world completely. So he chose this world with all the outcome that comes out from it. Everything, Hashem saw everything, and he said he showed Moshe Rabbeinu also every generation with what will come the outcome of that. They bring in a joke. Was a chassid, I think Shaber Bereishis, he was a rov in Bereishis, and he was a very poor rov because I think people, the community was poor, so he was poor. So he had a pile of mud outside of his house that even in the summer didn't dry up. Like a part of the poorness is living in such a place that one time Bafa Brengem, when he was in a good mood, he said, "What do you think? Why is there a mud outside of in front of my house, my shack, we'll call it better, a whole year? It never dries up." I said, "I don't know why. Nature is made it that with the water flows and whatever." So he said, interesting thing he said, that he said that the Eibishter showed other Mauritian, they showed them every generation with these leaders of the generation. In every shtetl, in every city with his Rabbanim. Hashem showed them other Mauritian. So when other Mauritian saw that Sheilber on him, that he is the Rov of Bereishis, so he gave a spit, noch mehr a Rov, that's a Rov. He gave a spit. From that spit, it's supposed to be a Chassidish kind of a joke. But the question is, becoming Elul, we have to ask the Eibishter to have Rachmanis in us. Tish Rosh Hashanah, we have to do tshuva, and there's Yom Adin, Yom Kippur is the signature, and we are worried, and then Simchas Torah, we have to be simcha in order to have a good year. What's the problem? Since the foundation, we cannot move on. The Eibishter is the only one that's running the world, and he's the essence of goodness and goodness only. So for sure, everything will be fine. What is our problem with me making that all the worries? So in other words, we have to be able to see, and also, the Eibishter promised a safe Yisrael last is tshuva. Torah promised, by the end of the day, all Jews will do tshuva. And Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek le'elam haba, and every Jew has a portion of the world to come. So why worry? Elam haba is infinitely higher than the best you could have in this world. You go that way. 1 hour in Gan Eden is better than 1,000 years of all the pleasure of this world. The person should be healthy and wealthy and have all the pleasures of this world. Intellectually, emotionally, physically, in everything. And for 1,000 years doesn't come to the pleasure of 1 hour in Gan Eden. The whole Gan Eden, 1 hour of doing tshuva, ma'asim tovim, doing good deeds, is higher than kol chayei olam from all the Gan Edens. And also love in Mashiach is even infinitely higher than Gan Eden. So what is there to worry about? What if we have to do tshuva, we have to do that? Everything will be good by the end of the day anyway. So let's go back to the idea, Pashat, the idea of understanding what did Adam Mauritian. Adam Mauritian was the completeness of a person, and he the ideal person, the shleimus in the highest level, as we said before, the outshine the sun, had the level of Chayeh, was the highest level of Neshama, and still he sinned. So it says in Medrash, Be'emes leihoya Adam roi le'isachet. Adam Mauritian wasn't capable of sinning. Adam Mauritian was not capable of sinning. Ulai haraui, wasn't worthy of sinning. He couldn't sin. He wouldn't sin. But Neira alila al bnei Adam. It says in Tehillim, Neira alila al bnei Adam. Tremendous is Hashem's tricks that he tricks in that. Hashem made it to such a way that Adam Mauritian couldn't overcome his temptation. and he had to sin. In other words, we have here a contradiction. In Chumash, it seems very clearly that it was his choice, his sin. On the other hand, we're saying in Medrash, based on the Tehillim, that Hashem made him, tricked him into sinning. So we see the idea of sinning is seeming like a good thing. If Hashem made him to sin, that means it's a good thing. And the proof that sinning is a good thing is, it says, in the place where Baal Tshuva could stand, a tzaddik gomer cannot stand there. So the only way you could become a real Baal Tshuva if you sin. So if a Baal Tshuva comes to a place where the tzaddik can never get there, not only he's not there, he can never get it. One quote is that doesn't stand there. But the second quote, he doesn't even have the potential to stand there. So that's a right, that the idea of the sinning is a good idea. Because but you guarantee that you'll do tshuva. It's not maybe you'll do tshuva later. Ultimately, for sure, you guarantee it. There's a number by Chassidim as a kines. No, the vote is no. That's not the idea. The kines of Tisha B'Av. So there's some tzaddikim would put it in the shemes. Why? Because for sure next year Mashiach will be ready by next year. So they're not going to say kines. But when we say a machzer, we say the Al-Chet of Yom Kippur 11 times. We don't put it in shemes. We never heard somebody putting it in shemes. Why? Because we know that we're going to sin. If Mashiach will not come, Chaz v'Shalom, we'll sin this year also. We have to say Al-Chet also. And we say, when they say, Ein tzaddik ba'otzah sheyaseh v'lo. There's no righteous man on the face of the earth that will do good and not sin. So tell me there is exceptions, tzaddikim that didn't sin. But majority, Teira l'Arev Tada, but Teira speaks about majority. So majority of people, the Eibishter created the world in such a way that we will sin. So here in the creation, Hashem is talking about how He created the world, and He created the world. Why did He create it? For the Jewish people, Bereishis is Bereishis. For Eden, for the Jewish people, they call him Bereishis. For Teira, that's called Bereishis. So all what we have is that other Mauritians sinned, Chava sinned, Enoch, who was a clever animal, sinned. Then Cain sinned. Then Hevel got killed. And then we're learning about the whole world became full of sinners. What is the point here in understanding in the creation? So we're learning with the creation becomes, how could it come out happy from that? Other Mauritians did one sin, and we're saying we were punished like for till Mashiach comes for almost 5,782 years. So what is the explanation? Basically, very simple. Because when you do tshuva, you come to a higher level. So the Eibishter, in a revealed way, we call it bechitzeni, is external in the lower level. He wanted other Moshe to be a tzaddik, he shouldn't sin. But in a deeper level, in a pnimius level, he wanted him to sin, because the only way he could come to the pnimius of elikus, of godliness, of the Eibishter, is after through tshuva, as we said that Mokim Shabbat Tshuva, the Metzadikim Chilim Lamed. So yes, and therefore the same thing a person. So the question is, that is the case. So now, what am I worried? Now I could go Chaz Shalom sin. No, bechitzenish, you mustn't want to sin. That's why Hashem wants you not to sin, and you should try your best not to sin. But when you sin, what you have to realize is that after you sin, that the reason that you sin, it's like we're saying, is hashgacha pratis. Before it happens, you have betochen it won't happen, something bad. After it happens, gamzul ateiva. That's also for the good. So since so we're saying is because the Eibishter has in himself these two opposite, that he wants you to be a tzaddik, but in a deeper level, he wants you to be a Baal Tshuva. What means? Because a Baal Tshuva means you reach in your neshama in a level But without being a Baal Tshuva, you cannot get to that. And not only in your neshama, you reach the level of connection with the Eibishter that without Tshuva, you cannot get there. So therefore, the Chumash, the whole story of Adam Rishon and Chava, is telling us, based on the idea that the whole world is created for Torah and for me, for the Jewish people. And then that's what it looks like. So that means that you have to see here that Bechitzeni is, it looks not so good. Externally, it looks not so good. And externally, yes, we sin, fail. But in a deeper level, in the Pnimis, you reach your essence of your neshama, and you come to the essence of the Eibishter. And maybe we could even use an example from life, from practical life. When people get married, they promise they'll be nice to each other, and they want to be nice to each other. Why? Because that'll be good for both of them. Now, what happens if they fail? So what happens if he wasn't one of them was not nice to the other person? So what do we do now? So somebody will say, okay, it's failed, so finish what you do. Say something else. Or the idea is, if the person could really be heartbroken, why he did it, why he failed, what will come? That will come to a relationship that he could, in a much deeper relationship, if he be heartbroken from what he did, the deeper relationship he could never have come there if it would be only everything to be good. It would never fail. So the question is, now he won't be afraid to fail. No, if you're not going to be afraid to fail, you'll never be able to get to that deeper level of relationship after you failed, because you're not afraid to fail. I mean, it doesn't get you deeper in yourself. So in other words, you have to hold these two opposites. On one hand, you don't want to fail, and you really don't want to hurt the other person. And that's 100% that way. And then when you failed, you're so upset about it, and you're apologizing, and you take a deeper placing of a commitment to be good that you could never get there without it. Give you one more muscle for that idea, because what we are handling here is with the idea, and that's the proof and the pudding is that the Rebbe made that we should all sin. Ain't tzaddik about that. Majority of people are not tzaddikim, not even beinunim. Why do you do it? Obviously, that's for our good. But in the same time, by us not wanting to sin, that takes us to the higher level where the sin gets you to that. But if you say, okay, that in the case I'm going to sin, then it's not going to work. But what happens with such a person? The Rebbe finds a way for him. I'll give you another mashal. A person is on a roof, on an island. He's on an island, a little island. And then suddenly he realizes that there is a dangerous animal in there that is dangerous for him. Now, in order to get out from this island, it's not talking about in the sea island, there is a pit around and around that's 2 meters wide. And he knows that he trained, his maximum he could jump over is 1.5 meters, cannot jump 2 meters. So practically now he's going to get killed by this animal, because everywhere is 2 meters, and if you jump, you'll fall into the pit. And it's a very deep pit, and for sure get killed. So now you could say he's stuck, if for sure going to die. No. If you realize that he's going to get killed by the animal, that reveals a deeper, right, strength in him, a deeper energy in him, and then he'll be able to dance over 2 meters. So he knows that if I will realize that, because I realize that I'm in danger, he's going to get killed, then I'll be able to jump over 2 meters. So now if you'll tell him, okay, so then I'm not in danger, because I could, if I'm in danger, I could jump over, so then I'll jump over. No, if you say to himself for one moment that he's not in danger, he won't be able to jump over. So he has to tell himself, I'm in danger, and because he's telling himself he's in danger, that's why he's not in danger. But if he'll tell himself, okay, I'm not in danger because I could be able to jump it over when I'll be in danger, but you have to realize the reality. So you have we call it the contradiction, the two ideas, going back to the idea of sinning, that a person has to be in a reality of life that he doesn't want to sin. Why? Not only because later he won't be able to do tshuva, because he has to live a good life. A good life means a life that you're connected with the Eibishter. And that's the kind of life that he has to live. And that's what the Eibishter told Adam Rishon, don't eat. What you have to know, you should not eat. I don't want you to eat. Now, what the Eibishter will make with that, one time my father told me he's worried about his son. I said, what are you worried about his son? He said, he's a goody-goody, too good. He said, he'll never become a man because he's never doing anything wrong. He's right, he's wrong, I'm not going to, I'm just saying the idea, but the Eibishter wants us. So I think that's what the whole Parsha of Adam Rishon tells us, that the Eibishter wanted Bechitzeni is to be, Adam should be a world of tzaddikim. But in a deeper level, what the Eibishter wanted, not to be a world of Baalei Tshuva. And therefore, going back to the idea that the Rebbe one time said a very interesting thing, a tzaddik comes and he says, I want to sin. Why? Because I want to be a Baalei Tshuva. I have Baalei Tshuvas around me. They're infinitely higher than me. I can never get there. Why am I done this? Because I'm a tzaddik my whole life and I have a big neshama and I have a good teachers and everything. That's why I should never be able to come close to the Eibishter like the Baalei Tshuvas. I'm going to sin and I'm going to get to that level also. Torah said, no, you're not allowed to. So what should you do? It's not fair. The Rebbe said the solution for that is that you have to help somebody else to become a Baalei Tshuva, right? You don't have to sin, help somebody. So you're becoming a partner in his tshuva. So then you get the mile. Therefore, the biggest thing that we could do is to help somebody else to be Baalei Tshuva and help ourselves to become Baalei Tshuva. Okay, but Tzlacha Rabbe said the way you position yourself Shabbos Bereishis, that will be a whole year. Why do we Shabbos Bereishis? Why not Shabbos Parshas Yisref's Matan Torah? So it says, because in Bereishis you see the foundation that the Eibishter created the world, and he's running the world, and he's creating it every moment. When you internalize that the Eibishter created the world, and he's creating the world, he's creating it every moment, he's creating it every moment for the Jewish people and for Torah. That foundation will take you for a whole year, but you realize that the Eibishter creating you every second. And for what? For Torah and for Jewish people. So yeah, that's the foundation of everything. That is the creation of the world. Not only this, it's a big revelation, something thing that came out later. That's the whole creation of the world. Then your whole year will be appropriate here. And the main it will be the revelation of Mashiach now Begashmis. Thank you very much. Kol Tuv and Batzlacha Rabbe.